Welcome, everybody, back to Midweek Meetings. This is episode number 13. I am KnockdownNico with the camera alongside Pr3ssix.
What's up?
Hey, we are doing this not at our normal time. We're doing this on Monday night, so we have the Ravens-Chargers game still going on as we're doing this, but it's Thanksgiving weekend. People got plans, so we had to do this episode just a day in advance. But we're still going to recap some of the games from Sunday, go over some key headlines as well, some big headlines from last week. Then we'll go over predictions for Thursday, or not Thursday, but the whole entire week of Thanksgiving weekend. And then we'll finish up with some fantasy football, and this week we will be back with the fun question because I do have one. But let's go recap some games. First one we are going to start out with is the Tommy DeVito debut versus the Buccaneers.
Yeah, this was a blowout. Giants fans expecting this sudden greatness from Tommy DeVito are just delusional. The whole franchise needs to be redone. They're a terrible organization. Tommy DeVito is not the answer, and Daniel Jones was not the main problem. All right, Giants fans, you're in a hole. Your team sucks, and I hope Daniel Jones has a successful career somewhere else, just to show how bad the Giants are. We've seen Saquon do it. We've seen Xavier McKinney do it this year. So both of those guys are having career years outside of New York, and I hope Daniel gets the same opportunity.
We're going to get into Daniel Jones a little bit later in this show. But I mean, yeah, this game, like you said, it was a blowout. This was 30-0 at one point in the fourth quarter. They scored their only touchdown like late or in the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Giants. I'm not sure. I guess, you give him a couple games, Tommy DeVito, but I mean, Drew Lock came in, I think, for one play when Tommy DeVito got injured for like a play, but I feel like, I don't know. I think this Tommy DeVito experiment it's going to last, you know, 2 more games at max, and that's it. If he doesn't get a win, or if he doesn't put up any good stats or make a game close and competitive, I think he's gone, or not gone, but I think Drew Lock takes that starting position by, when they play the Ravens, which will be in 2 games from now. But I mean, they didn't do a whole lot. Malik Neighbors wasn't targeted at all in the first half. He's kind of confused on that. If you saw his interviews on why, he wasn't really targeted at all in that first half until they were, down 30-0. The run game didn't do a whole lot. There was that Tyrone Tracy fumble. But, I mean, DeVito, he only had 189 yards, sacked 4 times. So this team is going to struggle if they can't move the ball and if the ground game doesn't work as well. So we'll have to see how they play again on Thursday against the Cowboys. But I don't know. I feel like DeVito is going to be out of that starting role within the next couple of games if they play like how they did today. Plus, the Bucs were coming off a bye week, I should say, as well. So, they had some full, fresh legs and everything under them. But, I mean, the Bucs, with the way the Falcons are looking, they're slowly inching closer to that potential division title as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out. The next game we're going to recap, though, is the Cowboys win a wild game over the Commanders. And I think the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken, had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns in this game, and the Commanders kicker missed the game-tying extra point. That was a special teams just disaster, that game.
Yeah, that was one of the wildest games all year. Definitely the game of the week in my opinion. The whole game up until the fourth quarter was kind of a defensive game, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, both offenses just exploded onto the scene. It was a really fun game to watch. Commanders have some question marks in my opinion. You know, they were 7-2. Now they're sitting at 7-4, I believe, or something like that. 7-5 maybe, but the team has kind of started slipping. And Jaden Daniels, he's he's still playing well, but when we saw them on that win streak that they had towards the beginning of the season, Jaden Daniels was playing better. The defense was playing better, and the last 3 weeks, this team hasn't looked the same as they were at the beginning of the season. So they need to reevaluate some things, in my opinion, um, and figure out what their issue is because losing to the Cowboys, who with Cooper Rush at starting QB, it's not a great thing. So if they can't beat the Cowboys, they're not going to make a run in the playoffs. They'll probably be first round exits. So they need to figure out something on in the Commanders organization.
I think the Cliff Kingsbury full circle is starting to come to the Commanders. I mean, they
You're
start
muted,
out.
Nico.
Oops. I don't know how I did that. I was saying was, I think the Commanders and the Cliff Kingsbury effect is coming around. You know, it happened in Arizona. Arizona would be good at the beginning of the year, and then they'd slowly dwindle off. The offense wouldn't perform as good as they have been. I mean, granted, they put up 26 points this game, but I don't know. You've seen it the past, couple games or so. Jane Daniels has not looked like how he has been at the beginning of this season, and this game was just this game was a special teams mishap. I mean, you have the Washington kicker missing an extra point. Let me see if I can pull it up as well. He missed a kick. You have, or I'm sorry, he was 0 for 2 on extra points and missed a field goal, which is not good. Brandon Aubrey as well, he got a kick blocked, but he also missed another field goal as well. So, I mean, look, maybe it's played out a little differently, but if the Commanders hit those 2 extra points, we're looking at 28 points for them. So maybe this game would have been a little different of an outcome. Also, special teams just lost this game for them too. They gave up 2 kick return touchdowns. One of them was on an onside kick. The other one was, Cavante Turpin, he dropped the ball, had to go back for it, and then he ended up scoring pretty much a 100-yard kickoff there. So, I mean, this Washington team is falling apart, before our eyes. They were so good at the beginning of this year, and I don't think, they play some not so good teams to close out the season, but they play the Cowboys again. They play the Eagles. We'll get into the Eagles game, in a little bit as well. But the Eagles are rolling, so I don't see Washington playing for a division title. I think that goes to Philadelphia. So they're going to be looking at a playoff spot, but the way they're looking, I'm not sure they're going to be even a wild card spot unless they, pick it up on all aspects of the ball. Gonna go into another game recap. The Chiefs, I had to bring this game up. The Chiefs almost lose to the Panthers. This was without a doubt Bryce Young's best game of his career by far.
Yeah, Bryce Young looked good, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs somehow always find a way to win, and that was just one of those games here. You know, Bryce Young played a great game. Panthers looked like they can compete with any team in the NFL on Sundays, so that's definitely a promising sign if you're a Panthers fan. They looked good. And if they can play like that every game, I mean, I think they would have a winning record if they played like that every week. But it's a young team. They're still learning, and I think they're only going to get better from here. Maybe the Panthers organization will be able to turn it around um, in the next year or two here. Bryce Young is definitely improving, and they just need to find him an O line and a good defense, and I think this team will be able to compete.
This team, the Panthers, like they didn't look bad. Bryce Young, arguably his best, performance of his career. The Chiefs, I'm more worried about the Chiefs. I mean, look, you lose to Baltimore or you lose to Buffalo, and then you essentially, I mean, you look at your last, I don't know, even against the Raiders, going back to when they played the Raiders, they only won that game by 7, but then you look past that, they beat the Bucks in overtime. Bucks never got a chance in overtime to get the ball. You have the only reason they beat the Broncos was because of a blocked kick. You lose to the Bills, and then you go literally down to the wire. The kick the game-winning field goal was zeros on the clock, so you literally go down to the end of regulation against arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL. So I'm a little worried about the Chiefs, you know, just overall. Like, I mean, Mahomes played good this game. He didn't turn the ball over, but this team, it's kind of like we're seeing, I think, what we saw at the beginning of the year in a sense, which was, they're squeaking out wins, but now it's becoming more eye opening because they're doing it against, maybe not the greatest teams. And if, a team like the Panthers has a really good day, you know, it does concern the Chiefs. And who knows, like just looking at the past couple of games and then their schedule, I'm not sure, they finish 17-1. I think they drop another couple of games and they may not even get the 1 seed depending on how Buffalo finishes the year out. But, good improvement for the Panthers, finally getting some momentum, you can say. They've looked good the past couple of weeks ever since that win against the Saints, even though they have, they did drop this game against the Chiefs. But I'm worried about the Chiefs. I think Pacheco coming back will help, but I mean, it seems like they're sputtering, but they're still managing to win because they are the Kansas City Chiefs. Our last game we're going to recap is the Saquon Barkley legacy game.
Yeah, Saquon had a day. And man, he's really powering this Eagles offense. When they have Saquon on their team and he can have over 200 plus scrimmage yards, it's just like it takes so much pressure off Jalen Hurts and the rest of the offense, and it opens up the pass game so much more. Um, you know, this team looks really good. They look like that team who competed and was definitely capable of winning the Super Bowl. And I think the Eagles might be the second best team in the NFC right now. Behind the Lions, and they're really. I don't think anyone wants to play the Eagles right now. Their offense is rolling. Their defense finally figured it out, which was their big issue going into their bye week, and they've turned it around. This team is primed to win the NFC East, and it should be a fun matchup or a fun team to watch down the road. But I don't know. I like the Eagles to make a run this year again, and you know they're a fun team, man. They're very explosive. Saquon is a beast. We thought that the reverse hurdle would be the best highlight of the year. Well, I mean, that whole game was a highlight for him basically. I mean, he was running all over them, so definitely a great game from Saquon, and I'd be excited if I were a Philly fan.
I mean, I think I think the stat I saw was Saquon's the first running back since 2009 to have over 250 rushing yards in a game, and he had over 300 scrimmage yards this game as well. He had 47 reception yards as well. So I mean, this Philly offense is rolling, especially when Saquon Barkley is rolling, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, he didn't have to do a lot. He literally did not have to do a lot. He only threw 22 pass attempts, didn't even hit 120, or I'm sorry, he didn't even hit 200 passing yards. So, I mean, this is, I wouldn't say kind of what the Eagles want, but, if they can kind of take the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands, and not make him the hero and have him play in a more of a, just get the ball into good situations to where they can score, and then have Saquon be that explosion player. Like, this team is looking really good. This team is looking deadly. They're one of the best teams. They're probably the hottest team in the NFL right now. So, yeah, I mean, if they don't get a 1 seed and they finish out the season the way they're playing right now, I would not want to play against them. You're going to have to play in Philly as well. So it's not going to be fun if you play Philadelphia. I'm very curious to see how this game against the Ravens is going to go. That'll be a big test for them, one of the better teams in the AFC as well. So we'll have to see how that one goes. But for the Rams, they dropped to 5-6. The NFC West is still up for grabs. Seattle's at the top after beating Arizona, but they're only 1 game ahead, and yeah, I mean, they're all around that same position. I think whoever wins the AFC West or the NFC West that's it. There's going to be no wild card team from that division. It's just whoever wins the division is going to the playoffs. So it's going to be a scramble in that division. Stafford didn't have his best game. It kind of seems like the Rams, they're so hit or miss on offense. They're either super explosive or they're just like not, it doesn't seem like they have enough in the tank, especially against, Philadelphia this week. Those are the games we are going to recap this week. Moving on to the headlines. The big headline is last week, Daniel Jones was released from the Giants. He requested to be released. And as of earlier today, he is now cleared for waivers so he can be signed. But Daniel Jones prefers to sign with a playoff contending team.
That's an interesting thing. I have not heard that yet, but well, I'm assuming he's kind of wanting to be a backup then, I guess, if he's trying to sign with a playoff contending team. But Daniel Jones and New York clearly just didn't work out together. I mean, we saw the experiment for too long, in my opinion. So I hope he's able to go somewhere and succeed, to be honest. I mean, he may not be the most talented QB, but I think he's definitely capable of being a starter in the NFL. Giants just are a bad organization and did not help him out much. So, bad situation. Giants are a poverty franchise, but it'll be interesting to see who he signs with because, you know, most teams this late in the season aren't really looking for another QB for the most part. Maybe if you're talking non-playoff contender teams, I mean, you got the Raiders who just lost Gardner Minshew, so they might need him, or maybe, I mean, I don't even know. Maybe he goes to the Jets as a backup. Maybe he goes to Dallas, which probably won't happen, but imagine he goes to Dallas and beats the Giants and then Thanksgiving. That'd be pretty funny, but probably won't happen. But no matter where he ends up, um, it'll be a slow process for him, especially if he wants to go to a playoff contender. He's not going to be the starter. So, yeah, just hope he gets another shot in the NFL.
I mean, there were some rumors that, he was on the Cowboys website. I think those were all fake. Couldn't find any info on that. The other thing is, I don't know if a team is going to want to sign Daniel Jones this year because, at least from this ESPN article, a team, in order to claim him, would have to pay almost $12 million this season, in addition to $23 million in injury guarantees just for this season alone. So, I mean, I don't even know if a team is going to want to sign him. I'm not sure what happens, next season if a team signs him, or, if he doesn't get signed, if the Giants have to pay that out. I don't know too much about that. But I'm not sure if a team is going to want to pay, essentially claim him off waivers and have to pay close to, over 30 million for him this year, which is like, to sit on the bench for, 8-10 weeks, depending on if they're a playoff team or not, maybe more if they're a playoff team. But I just don't know if he gets signed just due to how much money he is owned. But I mean, I think he can do good in the second chance. I feel like he's on that fringe, could be a starter, but if he's not a starter, he's probably one of the better, or probably like a top 3, backup quarterback in the league. So, I mean, Daniel Jones, he had that one good season. It didn't work out for him. A couple injuries. I think he had a neck injury. He had an ACL injury as well. A couple injury prone seasons. But, I mean, the Giants, I don't even know. They're just like, them starting DeVito on top of that as well. And yeah, I mean, the Giants, they got rid of all their good players. They didn't want to re-sign them. Then you look at all these players that they didn't re-sign, and look at how they're doing. So Daniel Jones, maybe he just needed to develop. Sit behind someone for a few games that's and a veteran. But the Daniel Jones experiment didn't work. I guess we'll just have to see what route the Giants go in the draft. Do they draft a quarterback? Do they try to sign a quarterback in free agency? That's going to be the news. One thing I'm going to throw in before we get to our next headline: Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and there was one other running back. I'm forgetting who it is now. But they left their teams, and their teams have a combined... Oh, Derrick Henry was the other one. They left their teams, and the teams have a combined record of 7-26 or something ridiculous. Like, the teams combined have only won 7 games this season that they left, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Next headline is L'Jarius Sneed has been placed on injured reserve.
That's a big loss for the Titans. Sneed is a very talented player. Coming over for Kansas City in the offseason, Sneed was supposed to be top tier player to add on to that Titans defense. But the loss of Sneed's definitely gonna hurt their defense out. Titans aren't really competing this year. I mean, they don't really have a shot at making the playoffs, but it's a tough loss. I mean, he's probably a pretty big piece in that defensive scheme overall. Someone they can definitely count on, a trusted veteran who can help out the rest of the team. And so, without his presence, this defense is probably gonna take a tumble a little bit. It's gonna be hard for them down the stretch. So, big loss, but doesn't have that much weight in the playoff scheme of things for the Titans.
Yeah, playoff wise, it, like you said, it doesn't really, have anything. But I feel like it's kind of, I mean, I felt like he kind of like went to the Titans and was a little irrelevant, kind of. Like you didn't hear him too much about him, but I guess he played, solid for the Titans while he was around. But I mean, they're not really in a position to go ahead and they're not looking for a playoff run, so maybe they just get some other rookies in there, or some players with less experience to play out where he did. But I mean, this season he only had 23 if this is correct, he's only had 23 tackles on the season, no passes defended, no forced fumbles. I'm not even sure if he's no interception. So it's kind of been like a very quiet almost season for him, and the fact that he got injured, just unfortunate for the Titans, unfortunate for him. We'll have to see if how he bounces back. I'm not sure if he's a free agent at the end of this year or not, so maybe that'll have some impact. This injury will have some impact on that as well. Up next, I kind of put these in the same thing. They happened in both this weekend, but Gardner Minshew out for the rest of the year with a broken collarbone, and Mason Graham, big loss for Philadelphia. Mason Graham with a triceps injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, these are both big losses for both organizations. Gardner had been starting for the Raiders, and Raiders haven't been a great team, but overall, I mean, it's still a big deal to lose your starting quarterback at the end of the day, especially for an offense who has already been terrible this year. So Raiders are in the dumps. They'll need a QB. They need to reevaluate their QB position next year. Big loss for them. Graham for the Eagles, big time veteran. I think he's one of the oldest players in the NFL as of right now. He's been a key part in that Philly defense. Definitely a big blow for them. He's like the leader of that defensive line, especially. So they'll definitely be missing him for the rest of the year. But I think Philly will be able to adapt, evolve, adjust to this gap in their defensive line and still make a pretty deep run. We just talked about how good they've been, so I think they'll continue their success.
Yeah, I mean, Gardner Minshew, I think he had the starting job at the beginning of the year, if I remember correct. Then he lost it. Then he got it back, and now he's injured. So very unfortunate for Gardner Minshew. Aiden O'Connell will probably be the quarterback for the rest of the season unless they go ahead and sign Daniel Jones, which I highly doubt it. I feel like they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders if he's available in the draft. But big loss for the Eagles and Mason Graham. It's a big loss, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's too big of a loss because that defensive line is just so stacked. Obviously, they're losing a leader on the defensive side, an impact player who's been around for a long time. But tough loss for the Eagles, but that defensive line, their depth in there is just so good. I mean, his backup essentially was Nolan Smith, who is very solid. So yes, it's a big loss, but at the same time, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's going to affect too much the Philly pass rush or the Philly run defense. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, a couple big losses right there. But, I feel like the Raiders Minshew injury would be more impactful if the Raiders were making a wild card push or a playoff run. But the Eagles one, we'll just have to see how that goes as well. I feel like it's not going to affect them too much, for a division title. We'll see how it affects them, as we get into the playoffs or the end of the season as well. Those are our headlines for this week. There's probably going to be some more headlines during the middle of this week, which we will cover on next episode, depending on how significant they are. But now we are going to move on to our predictions for this Thanksgiving weekend. The Ravens Charger game still going on. So Ravens are up by 14 right now with 7.5 left to go in the fourth. So I'm going to guess I'm dropping to 9-4 this week. So not solid. I mean, not bad, but could have been better.
Yeah, I'm also looking like I'll finish 9-4, which is below average for me so far this year. So definitely could have done better, probably.
Well, we have week 13 predictions. Starting off, we got 3 games on Thursday this week because of Thanksgiving. The first Thursday game is Chicago at Detroit.
I'm taking the Detroit Lions. No one can beat the Detroit Lions right now, especially not the Bears. Bears find a way to lose every single game they play. I think it's going to be the same story here. They might have them close for a little bit just because it's a divisional game, but at the end of the day, the Lions are going to prevail, and they should take the win here in Ford Field.
I'm doing this on the fly, my predictions, but I'm taking the Lions. Yeah, I mean, Detroit, they didn't give up a touchdown against, what's it called? They didn't give up a touchdown against the Colts. They didn't give a touchdown against the Jaguars. It is the Jaguars, though. So they've gone 2 games without giving up any touchdowns. The Bears, they looked better this year, or this week against the Vikings. They still lost, but I mean, it's just, the run, they're giving up almost 130 yards on the ground a game. Detroit loves to run the football. I will say the Chicago team looks so much better when they get DJ Moore involved. He led them in receiving yards. I think he was like 4th in targets for some reason, but he led them in receiving. This team looks so much better when they actually involve him in the passing game. So if they do that, this might be a somewhat close game. It is also a division game, so it might be close as well. But I think the Lions are going to give Caleb Williams some trouble, and I don't think the Chicago Bears are going to win if they can't stop this run game, which I don't think they will. Up next, we have the New York Giants at Dallas.
I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. We just talked about the Tommy DeVito's experience and how that's not really what Giants fans were hoping for. I think it's going to be the same story this week. Dallas looked like they kind of figured it out. They got some big plays on special teams and defense that definitely helped them out. But, I think this Dallas team, I mean, they're just a better overall team than the Giants, and I think that'll show in this game. Yep, I'm taking Dallas here.
I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys as well. Yeah, I think this game would be a little closer if Drew Lock was starting, but DeVito, I forgot what I said earlier. He threw for less than 200 yards. The Cowboys actually looked pretty solid last week against the Commanders. This was a close game when they played in New York earlier this season, but that was with Daniel Jones playing. So if they don't get Malik Neighbors involved early, and if they don't, we'll see how good this Giants team is, I guess you can say. Jaden Daniels threw 2 interceptions against this Cowboys defense. He was sacked. I think the Dallas Cowboys had 4 sacks, and I think this Washington offensive line is better than the Giants. So this might be a very, I wouldn't say ugly game for the Giants, but it's not going to be a fun game for the Giants. I just don't see how they win this. Even if the defense plays good, I don't see how they win this based on how their offense played against Tampa Bay. And if the offense can't do anything, defense is going to be on the field. And if the offense can't move and the defense is always on the field, they're going to get tired, and it's eventually going to lead to points for Dallas. Up next, we have Miami at Green Bay.
I'm taking the Green Bay Packers. They looked good in their win against San Francisco. They played a complete game. People say the Niners had a bunch of injuries. They did, whatever. A win's a win though. Their team was clicking on all sides of the ball, looked good overall, and the real reason I'm taking the Packers here is because this game is in Lambeau Field, and the Dolphins do not do good in cold weather. So even though the Dolphins have been hot, as of late, the cold is their weakness, and I think it'll show here in Green Bay. Um, you know, Green Bay's defense is gonna come out. They'll be hungry for a Tua pick. They're gonna get one. They're gonna win this game. Based on the turnover battle here.
I'm taking Green Bay. Yeah, I think Tua is 0-6, I think, when games are under 45 degrees, and then he's 0-3 if they're below, I don't remember what it was, 30 or 20 or like somewhere around there. So I think that continues that trend. The Dolphins, like you said, have looked hot, but this game's in Lambeau. It's going to be, I don't know what the temperature is going to be now, but I think it's going to be like by the time this game is played in the 20s or maybe even colder. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Green Bay looked really good against, a banged up 49ers team. Jordan Love didn't really do a lot. They relied heavy on that run game. The run game was pretty much how they won this game. So we'll have to see, how they play this game out as well. If they let Jordan Love loose a little more, or, because this Dolphins defense is pretty solid against the pass. So we'll have to see how they play this though. But I'm taking Green Bay solely or mostly on that Tua trend. So I will see. You'll see how that game goes. I feel like Green Bay is going to take it though. Up next, we have Las Vegas at Kansas City.
I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs. Not much to be said about this one. Chiefs find the way to win games. It's going to be the same story here against Las Vegas Raiders, who will have Aiden O'Connell as the starting QB now. So, yeah, definitely going to roll with the Chiefs here. Maybe this will be a week where they can kind of figure things out and hopefully improve. The Panthers beat the Raiders when they played, so maybe this will just show if the Chiefs are frauds or if they actually can blow out these bad teams, kind of like what Detroit's been doing, with a similar record. So, yeah, I like the Chiefs.
I'm taking the Chiefs. Look, it's a Black Friday game. Not that that really has any impact. It's in KC as well, and the Raiders are on there like kind of a starter, but kind of a backup quarterback as well. So yeah, I don't see how the Raiders are going to win this game. They're going to need like 800 yards from Brock Bowers to win this game. They just lost to the Broncos as well, who have a solid defense. I think they had a couple turnovers, a couple interceptions, lost a couple fumbles against them. I think it's going to be the same thing for the Chiefs. The Chiefs should win this game by at least 12 points or not, especially with it being in Kansas City. And, I don't know the status on, I think, Zamir White, if he plays or not. So if he doesn't, they're going to be with their backup running back. So not looking good for the Raiders. I'm taking the Chiefs. Up next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at Atlanta.
This should be a good matchup. I'm excited for this game. Atlanta's coming off their bye. It's at home. Should be a real test to as how good Atlanta really is. They've looked good at some points in the season, and they've looked really bad in some points of the season. But I think I'm gonna pick the Chargers here. I like the Chargers defense against Kirk Cousins. I think they'll be able to attack him at the QB spot, and I think they'll be able to own him in the secondary. The big thing is going to be stopping Bijan, which I think they'll be able to manage, but it'll be their toughest challenge. And then on the offensive side of the ball for the Chargers, their run game is going to have to thrive here, and I think it will. Atlanta's defense against the run is not very good. Um, they really specialize in the passing game. So, you know, I think the Chargers will be able to beat them on both sides of the ball here. A Kirk Cousins interception might be the tail in this game, and that's kind of where I'm leaning with this one.
I feel like this game's a little bit of a toss-up. I might end up switching my pick later on this week, but as of right now, I'm going to take the Chargers. J.K. Dobbins left his Ravens game with I think he was questionable to return he was out with a knee injury, I want to say. So I think the significance on whether he plays next week or not, will kind of help my decision as well. So I may end up flipping this, but the Chargers, they're coming off, they're probably going to lose this game, but otherwise, they've been solid this year. They've been solid this year. The offense seems to be clicking for the most part. We'll have to see, like I said, how bad that injury is to J.K. Dobbins, but Atlanta coming off a bye, they should be clicking, but the past couple games they have not been. They lose to New Orleans, and then they get disassembled by Denver, and then before that, they played a not good Dallas Cowboys team. So we'll have to see what side of the Atlanta Falcons we get. Are we going to get the good Kirk Cousins, the explosive Atlanta offense, or are we going to get the struggling Atlanta offense? But as of right now, I'm taking the Chargers for this game. Up next, we have Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh defense is too good for the Bengals offense. The Bengals are coming off a bye, so that definitely helps them, but this is a divisional game. The Bengals haven't been good at home this year, so I like the Steelers. The Steelers lost to the Browns last week. Kind of a bad game from them. Even though it was in the snow, they definitely sold that game. They definitely could have won that game, but I think this will be a week for them to bounce back. They kind of got a mini bye, being that game was played on a Thursday, so they've had time to talk about this game, and I think they'll come out of the gates ready to play against the Bengals, kind of catch them off guard. Jamar Chase will probably have a big day, but as we've seen, he can have a big day and this team will still lose. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here. Bengals defense is not going to be able to hold the Steelers offense, and the Steelers defense is only going to need one or two stops in order to win this game. So I'm going with the Steelers.
I'm taking the Steelers. The Bengals are 1-4 at home, so yeah, not good for them. Steelers, like you said, they're coming off a mini bye, and the Cincinnati, defense has not been the greatest this entire year. I think George Pickens is going to have a big game. 3 of the last 4 games the Bengals have played, they've given up over 34 points or more. So, and the only game they did in that 4-game stretch was to the Raiders. So if that tells you anything. This is a division matchup though, so there's a chance it's close, but I think Russell Wilson, George Pickens, they're going to squeak by even if Joe Burrow has a big day and a big, game out of Jamar Chase. They haven't looked good at home, the Bengals. Pittsburgh, they need a bounce back win against, a division rival as well. After losing to the Ravens, they're going to need a win as well if they want to continue to be in first place in that division as well. So I'm taking the Steelers. Up next, we have Arizona at Minnesota.
Okay. I know Arizona just lost, but I'm gonna go with the Arizona Cardinals either way. The Vikings, they looked pretty good last week. Um, but they didn't get Justin Jefferson involved at all. It was the Jordan Addison show on Sunday, and I think they're not gonna be able to replicate that again. They gotta get Justin involved again. Gotta get the run game back up and going. And, honestly, I think this Vikings team is too good to be 9-2. Um, they really haven't proven much, in my opinion. The games they've lost were against good teams, and as a Packers fan, I just want them to lose so we can get a better playoff spot. But that's besides the point. So I like the Cardinals. I think they have a big bounce back week. Kyler didn't look too great in the game on Sunday, so I think he'll figure it out. Um, maybe it was COD. He was playing too much COD over the weekend, getting ready for Thanksgiving, and just forgot that he had a football game or something. I don't know what it was, but bounce back week for the Cardinals. I think they'll be ready. Um, and yeah, I like them over the Vikings this week.
This is a tough one. The Vikings, the past couple of games, they've won. They haven't looked the greatest. They've won close games. I'm gonna take the Vikings. Arizona, they looked bad against Seattle, but Kyler Murray hasn't won a game against Seattle since 2020. I I feel like this game is up in the air. I feel like you can go 50-50. James Conner was the run game was non-existent for the Arizona Cardinals last week. James Conner had like 8 yards on the ground or something. So, you know, they're going to need the run game in order to win this game as well. The Vikings, they need to get Justin Jefferson more involved. I think part of that had to do with the fact that, he was triple teamed every play that game, which opened opportunities for other wide receivers. So if that happens again this game, I think the other wide receivers need to step up. But I mean, if I don't know how good this Cardinals team is going to be, you know, if they can't get the run game going. Minnesota only giving up just under 75 rushing yards a game. Solid rushing defense. So we'll have to see. You know, if they can't get the run game going, Arizona, they're going to have to do what they did last game and rely heavy on Trey McBride, rely heavy on Marvin Harrison, although he was pretty quiet last week as well. So I'm taking the Vikings, though. I think it's going to be a close game. I feel like you can go 50-50. It just depends, I guess, what side of the offense both teams decide to wake up and show that day. Up next, we have Indianapolis at New England.
This might be a little bit of an upset pick. I don't really know if it is though. I'm gonna take the New England Patriots here. The Colts have been very inconsistent. I know they played the Lions last week, and didn't score a touchdown. It was the Lions, but at the same point, they still didn't score a touchdown. That's not a good sign for any offense. Jonathan Taylor was a non-factor in that game, which is bad to see if you're a Colts fan. And I think Drake May, he didn't have a great week last week, but he's been playing pretty good overall. You know, um, they had a pretty rough matchup last week, but I think they'll be able to bounce back against the Colts, who really have been kind of mediocre all season. You don't know if they're going to come out good or if they're going to come out bad. And I think this game is going to come down to Anthony Richard turning the ball over. Pat's defense is nothing to be slept on, and I think they're gonna come out. They're gonna be ready, and this is in Foxborough, so I think that also helps them out a little bit. Probably gonna be a cold game. Anthony Richardson might get too tired in the cold. I don't know. We'll see, but I like the Patriots here.
This, I feel like the Patriots are due for a win almost. I, Jeez, I'm not sure if it comes this week, but I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to take New England. You know, this team was, if they, the Patriots are good against the run. You know, they have a solid run defense. If this team cannot get going on the run game, it is just, it's over. You know, Jonathan Taylor didn't have a lot of rushing yards against the Lions. Lions have one of the best rushing defense. This is in the NFL. I feel like if they can't get the run game going against New England, this is going to be a hard team to beat. Drake May, he's so close to getting another win. He just a couple bad mistakes here and there, but at the same time, this Indianapolis defense is prone to giving up big plays as well. So I'm taking New England. I feel like this game, though, can go either way. It can go either way, but I'm going to take New England. Up next, we have Seattle at the New York Jets.
Ooh, this is an interesting game. Jets are coming off a bye. It's not at Seattle, so that's a plus for the Jets. Um, I'm gonna take the New York Jets here. I know probably might not be the popular opinion, but I think the Jets, if anything, they're gonna come out, they're gonna be ready for this game. They have to win this game if they want a chance to stay in the playoff hunt. They gotta win all their games if they want a chance to be in a wild card spot. So they're hungry for this game. If they lose, their season's basically done. So I think they're gonna be more ready than the Seahawks. They're healthy. They've got everyone lined up. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, and Brees Hall are going to be too much for the Seattle defense. Seattle has been bad at stopping the run all year, other than against the Cardinals, I guess. So um, it'll be an interesting game, but I think it's going to end up going in the Jets' favor here.
I am taking the Seahawks. I don't have faith in the Jets. You know, they're so they're so hit or miss. I mean, I guess we're gonna find out which if Aaron Rodgers, you know, that team has improved or anything you could say. But I mean, they're gonna need a big running game to win if they're gonna win this game. You know, the Seattle is only giving up 214 net passing yards a game, and even with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, this passing game from Aaron Rodgers has not looked the best. You know, you look at the past 3 games that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets have played, 211 passing yards, 151, and then against the Colts he had 184. So they're going to need a monster game against Seattle on the ground in order to win this game. You know, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to struggle a little bit. You know, this team is just, you know, I don't know what to make of the Jets. I think their playoff hopes are officially done. We'll have to see if there's any improvement, but you know, I just don't see it happening with this team. They're too good on paper and they're just failing their fan base. Up next, we have Tennessee at Washington.
You know, Tennessee came out and they looked really good against the Texans. But at the end of the day, it was a divisional matchup, and I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to replicate it. So I'm going to take the Washington Commanders. They need a bounce back game after losing 3 in a row, I believe. So Commanders need this win. They want to stay in the playoff hunt. This will be a big game for them. They need to capitalize on this. They don't have the easiest schedule ahead of them, so they got to win this game to keep their playoff hopes more realistic. You know, they had a few injuries. I think Eckler went out and Brian Robinson went out, so some depth issues at the running back spot, but I think they'll be able to handle it through the air. We talked about L'Jarius Sneed being gone, so that veteran presence isn't there in the secondary for Tennessee, and I think they're going to be able to handle. I think the Commanders will be able to handle this Tennessee team pretty easily.
This, the Commanders, some special team mishaps, some mistakes from Jane Daniels. They're on a 3-game losing streak. You could say this first 2 games in that losing streak were against good teams: Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Dallas division rival. I'm going to be in the very outlier here. I'm taking Tennessee. Look, Tennessee, the defense has been good, giving up less than 170 passing yards a game. Even the run game, they're only giving up a little over 105 yards a game. 41 sacks, I'm not sure where that ranks, but this Tennessee defense is stingy. And look, I know it was a division matchup, but we just saw Cooper Rush put up pretty solid stats, almost 250 and 2 touchdowns against the Commanders. Look, if the Commanders play how they did last week, special teams and mishaps and, mistakes on offense, mistakes on defense, I feel like this game is going to go to Tennessee. Will Levis just doesn't need to turn the football over. If Will Levis has some goofy game where he turns the football over, the Commanders probably win this game fairly easy, but they stuck it to the Texans. Tony Pollard had a big rushing game as well. So if this offense, which has been clicking the past couple of weeks, it just hasn't showed up in the win column. So I think the Titans, they get back-to-back wins against, you could say quality opponents. Up next, we have Houston at Jacksonville.
Look, I know Houston just lost, but they're going to figure it out this week against Jacksonville. I'm taking the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud hasn't looked great this year, but I think he'll be able to manage the Jaguars defense, who has not been really good. Jaguars don't have much to look forward to. Trevor Lawrence's availability is still up in the air, I believe. So especially if he doesn't play, they're going to be in real trouble. So um, I like the Texans here. They need this game, bounce back game for them, and I think they'll be able to do it.
I'm taking the Texans. Yeah, they're going to get a bounce back game, like you said, against a division opponent. This may be a little close for some weird reason because it's a division opponent, but they're going to take care of Jacksonville. CJ Stroud's kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump. So, I think he can get out of it a little bit. I don't think they're going to be without Jalen Pr3ssix. He got injured in that game against the Titans. This says it's a partially ruptured pectoral, so he's definitely going to miss this game. So, and they lost another corner as well during that Titans game. So they are a little bit beat up on the defensive side, but I think, they're going to go ahead, take care of business, even though Jacksonville is coming off a bye week. This Jaguars team hasn't looked good. We'll have to see, what they do at the running back spot. Are they splitting carries? Is it still going to be Trevor Etienne with the most, carries, you could say? I don't know. But the Texans, they're going to get a bounce back win. They need it anyway. I'm taking the Texans. Up next is the Los Angeles Rams at New Orleans.
I'm going to take the LA Rams here. They're not too far out of their division. They're still in a good spot to compete. Puka and Cup are still great players, and I think they'll figure it out on offense against the Saints. Saints, they're such a hard team to read, man, but I think the Rams are gonna be able to do it. Saints are just one of those teams you never know what they're gonna do. The last time they won, it's because they had Taysom Hill who went for 3 touchdowns. So maybe it'll be the Taysom Hill show, but I still like the Rams here. Even though the Saints are coming off a bye, I think the Rams will be in a prime position to win this game. Um, and I think they'll want it more too. So I like the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams. I feel like this game is it's literally a game of, who's going to show up in a sense. I feel like these teams are both so hit or miss. One week they'll show up, one week they won't show up. So we'll just have to see how this game is. But, or New Orleans, they got a starting rookie cornerback, and then their other cornerback, Alontae Taylor, solid. I would say, probably mid pack for corners, but Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, one of them is going to have a big game again, maybe both of them, especially if Stafford is a good game, and that's going to be the difference in this game. Derek Carr, as much as, you know, Derek Carr sometimes can be good, sometimes can be bad. He's got Valdez Scantling as his wide receiver one, which I guess, the past week or two, it's been good. Taysom Hill will be there as well. So, this game is literally just going to be whichever team's offense shows up and plays well, because these teams are both so hit or miss, especially on offense. One week they'll be, look like they could be the best in the league, and one week they could look like they'll be the worst in the league. But I'm going to take the Rams. Up next, we have Tampa Bay at Carolina.
This is an interesting game. I almost like Carolina here, but I decided to go with the Bucks. The Bucks, they had a really good game against the Giants. The Giants are the same team who lost to Carolina in London, and I think I think the Bucks are back. Mike Evans is back. This team needed Mike Evans, and I think now that they have Mike Evans, Kate Otten is healthy as well, and the running game for the Bucks, they've kind of figured out the workload between Bucky Irving and Rashad White, and I think it's really paying off for them. So the Bucks offense is looking good. I think they'll be able to beat the Carolina Panthers defense. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I know Bryce Young played a good game, but will he be able to replicate it? We'll see. Either way, though, I'm taking the Bucks here.
I'm taking the Bucks. They went on a little losing streak against some good opponents, even though they were putting up points. They're still putting up points. So, I'm taking the Bucks. Panthers played good, like you said, but I just think, this is a division game, so who honestly knows? But I think the Bucks, the Panthers have one of the worst run defenses in the league. So I think that's going to, benefit them as well, benefit, Tampa Bay. They're also one of the worst teams in the league at guarding tight ends as well. So I think Kate Otten, he had a quiet game last week. I think he's going to bounce back this week. Mike Evans should have a solid game as well. I think this is going to be, another Tampa Bay win where they score, 20, 30 points, something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, though. Tampa Bay needs this as well if they want to be in contention for that division championship. I don't think they'll get in with a wild card spot just based on their record, but who knows? But I'm taking Tampa Bay. Up next, we have Philadelphia at Baltimore.
This is a pretty interesting matchup. We just talked about how the Eagles are looking good, and as we speak right now, the Baltimore Ravens just beat the Chargers, so they're up to 8-4 now. But I think I'm gonna have to go with the Baltimore Ravens here. Lamar Jackson, historically has been really good against the NFC, and so I think he's gonna continue that trend against the Eagles. The Ravens are at home, so that definitely helps them, and I think it'll be a close one, but I think Lamar Jackson is gonna be able to pull this game out. Derrick Henry's probably gonna run for like 2 touchdowns or something, 150 yards. So that's my prediction for this game.
I'm taking the Eagles. The Eagles have been on an absolute hot streak. Since they lost that game to the Bucks, they've only had one game where they have scored less than 25 points, like 25, 26 points. Saquon Barkley, this is going to be a very good game. Saquon Barkley, though, he's going to be this X factor in this game. If he has another monster game, it's going to be tough for the Ravens to keep up. This could be a high scoring game, though, as well. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be two teams that, are high up in the division and, at the same time are going to be big playoff contenders. But I do think this is just going to fall Philadelphia's way, even though the Ravens just won against the Chargers. I think Saquon's going to have a big impact in this game, though. Up next, we have San Francisco at Buffalo.
I'm gonna take Buffalo here. San Francisco is hurt. They'll probably have Purdy back, I'm assuming, by the time this game gets played, so that'll definitely be a plus for them. But overall, they're injured, and their playoff hopes are looking slim. And I think Buffalo's gonna kind of put their playoff hopes to an even slimmer spot here. This game is in Buffalo, so probably gonna be a cold one. Josh Allen is gonna be ready. I don't know what Bosa's status is going to be in this game, or Trent Williams, but either way, I think the Bills are going to be able to get it done. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, outside of the Eagles and the Lions. So I like them here against the San Francisco 49ers, who just have not got it working on offense this year.
I'm taking the Bills. Like you said, we're going to have to see the status on, Purdy, Trent Williams, a couple other offensive linemen as well, Bosa, looking at the depth chart right now, as of currently, this will obviously get updated as we get later into the week, but Purdy is out, Trent Williams is out. They also have two other, both of their guards are questionable. Their right D tackle is questionable. Bosa is currently out. They have a linebacker that's questionable, and Travarius Ward out, and Diamador Lenore as questionable as well. I think this team is just banged up. They didn't look good against Green Bay with a backup quarterback. I think that's going to be the big difference as well in this game. If Brock Purdy plays, I think this game's a little closer. But if Brandon Allen plays or even Josh Dobbs plays, I feel like this is just going to be a pretty easy win for Buffalo. It's in Buffalo as well. They're coming off a bye week, so they're healthy. This is going to be a big win for them as well, especially, looking on later into the season. If the Chiefs drop another game, they're going to be in the number one seed because of that tiebreaker. So this is I wouldn't say a must win, but this is going to be a huge win if they can pull it off. And I think Buffalo is going to be able to do that. Up next, we have Cleveland at Denver.
I'm taking the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos defense has been insane. Bo Nix has been good. This team is just looking good overall. They'll definitely, in my opinion, end up in a wild card spot. And man, the Broncos are just fun to watch. If you watch any of their games, I mean, they just look like a good team, and they're competitive in every game they play. And I think the Browns, I mean, they got the win against Pittsburgh, but it was in the snow, weird conditions. Jameis Winston was having the time of his life in the snow. I don't think he'll be having the time of his life against the Denver Broncos defense. So for that reason, I'm going to take Denver.
I'm taking the Broncos. Bo Nix looking like, he could win the Rookie of the Year, based on how he's played. I forgot after what week it was, but he's only thrown, I might have been like week 3 or 4, after that Buccaneers game or the Jets game, I want to say. But he's only thrown, whatever that game was, I don't remember the exact stat. He's only thrown 2 interceptions since then. He had 4 at the beginning of the season. He's been cooking. He's been getting that connection with Courtland Sutton as well. So they are looking really good. This team as well, the defense is looking solid as well. Jameis, Jameis is a good quarterback, but he is prone to, making mistakes. I think they're going to capitalize on the mistakes if Jameis Winston throws some interceptions and stuff. It's in Denver as well. I'm taking the Broncos for this matchup. Those are our predictions for this week, week 13. Moving on, we are going to, or I should say, who is your auto lock for this week?
Um, I think a lot of these games could go one way or the other, but I think my auto lock is going to be Detroit against the Bears. Bears are gonna falter. This could be a bad game for the Bears. Yeah, that's my auto lock.
I am going to take for my auto lock. I'm going to take. Let me pull it back up. Ooh, I think I gotta take Kansas City over Las Vegas. Seems like a pretty solid lock. I think they're going to do well. I mean, Kansas City should do more than well. Let's be honest. They should do more than well. So, I'm going with Kansas City. The Raiders don't really stand a chance if I'm being honest. Moving on to fantasy football. I've officially lost this week. I think I'll be out of the playoffs. So that is very sad. Unfortunately, dude, the story of my fantasy is this season though has just been, I got some players that show up some weeks and other weeks they don't show up, and not everyone shows up on the same week.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Looks like I will be moving up to 10-2 on the year, which is very good, for a 12-man league. My team has been cooking. I think I had 4 or 5 players scored around 25 points this week, which is just so clutch. And I've definitely secured a playoff spot at this point. I don't know if I have the first seed on locks, but I'm hoping to secure that too. Um, yeah, I'm looking good.
So we can't do any waiver wires yet. But looking ahead to next week, you know, I'm gonna have to look at Amon-Ra St. Brown is questionable right now, so I'm gonna have to look at that. I gotta see. I gotta see as well which quarterback I want to play this week. I don't really have the best matchups. I got Goff against Chicago, and I have Jordan Love against Miami. They're both pretty solid defenses. Um, Hopefully, the Darnell Mooney injury as well will be cleared up as well. He'll play, but for some reason, if not, I don't know. I'm probably gonna pick up when I'm able to net tomorrow, and hopefully I get him. I'm gonna pick up Marquez Valdez Scantling off of waivers. He seems to be that number one wide receiver right now for Derek Carr, especially if I need a wide receiver. I'm going to put him there. I have to see, I don't think I'm going to change my lineup a whole lot outside of, switching in either Darnell Mooney or Khalil Shakir instead of Tucker Kraft this week, unless for some reason Amon-Ra is out against Detroit, which will be a big loss for me. Looking ahead, though, to next week, if you want to recap your team or anything.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not going to be making many changes this week. My roster's pretty solid. The only thing I will be changing is my defense. I have the Miami defense as of right now. As a Packers fan, I'm just not going to play the Miami defense against the Packers. So I don't know who I'm targeting really. Trying to think through these matchups. I don't really like most of these. Maybe I'll just go with. I mean, gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to go with Dallas. I mean, that looks like my best option right now when I'm looking at waivers. So I guess I'll be aiming to pick up the Dallas defense as of right now. Um, but yeah, I think that's about where I stand. Looking forward to next week. Look at my matchup next week.
There's no projections
Um,
yet because it's still Monday, but you know, my matchup.
yeah.
He's got Austin Eckler's questionable. He also has Ty Johnson is in his tight end spot at questionable. He does not have another tight end though, so you know there's potential for there. But he has Brees Hall on his bench, so I'm gonna assume he's gonna switch out. You know, somebody probably either Najee Harris or Austin Eckler. Put Brees Hall in. Otherwise, I mean, it's gonna be a solid matchup. He's got Lamar, Najee, Marvin Harrison. I'm honestly a little worried about the Kansas City defense against Las Vegas. I just have a weird feeling they're going to score a touchdown against the Raiders, and that's not going to help me.
Yeah, I'm looking at my matchup here. I'm looking pretty solid. The only thing, he's got A-Chan, which is something to worry about. Um, Bowers, pretty good. He's got Bowers, something to worry about there. Got Will Disley in his flex, which he's been playing pretty good recently for the Chargers, so I
Yep.
guess that's a solid choice. But overall, I'm got an 18 point. Um, I'm favored by 18 points here, so looking pretty good. I'm pretty confident in my team. If you look at my team on paper, it doesn't really look like we'd be that great, but somehow, I put up 160 points this week, so you just keep finding ways to score a lot of points, and it's fine with me. So,
Agree.
let's see. I
Cortland
don't know.
Sutton
The only
has been good
thing,
for you.
yeah, Cortland Sutton has been a steal. I mean, you could basically get him in the last round in most drafts this year, so he's been a really solid addition for me, especially with Devontae Smith going out with an injury. I don't know if I'll switch out any of my players. I'm looking. Um, I mean, it's tough. I feel like Bucky Irving might not have the best week against Carolina. I think they'll be pretty pass heavy. The Bucks will be, so I might switch someone out of flex. But I think for right now, I'll keep my lineup. It's pretty solid. Bucky Irvin's been playing pretty good recently for fantasy purposes, so I think I'll probably just end up keeping it. But yeah.
As of right now, projected. I have like a 7. Like about it says like a 6 point advantage, like 6.3 advantage. Although this I faced this guy in week 2. I lost by a singular point that week, so you know I'm coming for revenge that game. I should have a better tight end, and Rashad White only got me 3 points that week. So as long as I do solid, my players play solid, I should win this game. But we will have to see. We will definitely have to see what is in store for fantasy this week. I even with this loss, I don't think I drop. Like, I think I'm still gonna be tied for like 8th or 9th, which is crazy, I think, but don't quote me on that. Moving on though, I do have a fun question to wrap up the episode for this week. So, if you don't have one, you can think of one as I say this, but being that it is Thanksgiving weekend, they do the tradition, the top players or the stars of the game for each game get a turkey leg. So, what 3 players do you think are getting a turkey leg They don't have to be from the same team, or they can all be from the same team.
All right, I'm gonna pick one from each Thursday night or Thursday football game. Um, First of all, I think Detroit's gonna win, so I'm gonna go with Jahmyr Gibbs gets the turkey leg. I think that it would be class act. Uh, he'll probably run all over this Bears defense, so that would be fun to see. Um, for the next game, man, this is a tough one. I guess my prediction is the Cowboys are gonna win, so I guess it's gonna be either Micah Parsons or CeeDee Lamb. I think I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons. I think he's probably gonna get a few big sacks in this game against the New York Giants O-line. So I bet he probably gets a turkey leg in this game. And finally, going to the Packers, I gotta give it to Jordan Love. Last year, the Packers won on Thanksgiving, and they didn't have a turkey for us for some reason. So this year, Jordan Love's getting his revenge on Thanksgiving. He's getting that turkey leg, his well-deserved turkey leg from last year. They better give him two because I mean they basically scammed him last year by not giving him one. So those are my three players for receiving a turkey leg.
I think our players are pretty close. I was going to say Jahmyr Gibbs is getting a turkey leg. Being that you said that, I'll switch my answer. I think if Amon-Ra St. Brown plays and he catches a touchdown pass, I think he gets a turkey leg. I also think Jared Goff is going to get one as well. Dallas, this may be a little weird. I think Cooper Rush, I think CeeDee Lamb will get a turkey leg. I think Cooper Rush is going to get a turkey leg, even if he only throws for like 200, like if he throws for like 250 and 2 touchdowns, I feel like they'll give him a turkey leg. And for the Green Bay Miami game, I think Xavier McKinney is going to get a turkey leg, especially, if he creates a turnover, forces a fumble, gets an interception, or if he just has a bunch of tackles. I feel like they'll give him a turkey leg as well. Do you have a question, or shall we wrap it up here?
I don't really have a great question to be honest, so we could wrap it up here.
Hey, we will wrap it up here with the Thanksgiving question. Hey, week 13. First and foremost, guys, happy Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey, or I guess ham. Make sure you eat turkey though, or at least have a turkey. That's another story for another day. But week 13, we're closing in. We got all 16 teams, or all 32 teams playing, I should say, this week. So no bye weeks this week. Should be a good week of football. Got some very good matchups, some good teams from both sides facing each other and everything. So this should be a very, very good week all around. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, exciting to see what we have in store. But that is going to do it. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on when the episodes do get uploaded. If you're watching over on Twitch, make sure you guys follow us. We do this every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time, on twitch.tv/KnockdownNico or twitch.tv/Pr3ssix. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys at the end of week 13 for the start of week 14.
See ya. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.